But the one thing you did mention, and we kind of glossed over it, and it's come up a couple times in this conversation, I do think it's a very valuable thing to talk about is pornography. You know, you work with men. I've had my struggles with it in the past because I was given it as a 13-year-old boy with no education, no restriction on it, and you also have these hormones going like crazy. You said you've had your battles with it, and I'm sure that you encounter men that have battles with it. What do you think at the crux of is at the crux of this issue, and what are some of the things to think about or reconsider when it comes to pornography use in your mind?
Yeah, so in a lot of therapies, they talk about like what is the trigger mechanism to watching it in the first place. It's always a question to ask for a lot of these things, whether it's like your trigger mechanism for overeating or whatever it may be. This applies to pretty much everything. Halt. So, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Most of the time, men fall in those categories of being hungry. Maybe they're angry, maybe they're frustrated. They have a little dopamine that quenches it. They're lonely. They're lonely is the biggest one I find of all of that, right? Because that's like the core of why you're angry or why you're hungry, or right, it's being lonely. I think a lot of men today are very lonely, or you're tired, you're just exhausted, and you're like, okay, get a little kick up, So I think, dude, my view on like pornography and at least like jumping right into how you can move away from it. We know how destructive it is for the brain. We don't even need to talk about this stuff. You guys all know this. Everyone knows this. We know how debilitating and shame and guilt inducing it is. So let's just cut into like, how do we get away from this? How do we move forward from this, right? Because what I've done is I've actually connected more with my sexual energy, ironically. And what it's done for me and it's helped me is not saying restrictive things like, don't touch myself, Nofap. Basically, what we see in our culture today is Nofap, hashtag Nofap, 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 Nofap. Is that really the goal, though? Is the goal Nofap? Is it really just like looking at your penis and acting like it's not there and just saying like, sorry, no, I'm not going to touch it. It's not there. It's not there. You're putting energy towards what you mentioned earlier, which is what you resist persists. So many men are just like going through these programs, the guys that are teaching them to get off porn. And it's like the biggest bullshit ever. And I see all these tweets and I see all these posts saying like, to get off porn, you must like restrict it and set blockers and like all this stuff. And it's like, yes, like get off the porn. But what they also say is just don't touch yourself. How do you get that streak of just no fap? Oh, I'm on day 7. I'm on day 14. And then they relapse. 9 out of 10 times, these guys I talk to, they've gone through these programs and stuff, they relapse. And then they have even more shame and guilt. So everything was just a waste of time. Because what they just did is they restricted themselves so heavily, put this blockade up, acts like on the other side it's not there, when really you can just walk around. You can walk around the wall and it's right there. That's the issue. So it's like, you're not actually getting rid of the problem. You're just putting a mask over it. You're just like saying it's not there, like blinders, like a horse running on a race. So what you can do is integrate your sexual energy. This has been something so bountiful for me, helping all my clients with, and it's very unique. Mantak Chia, you familiar with Mantak Chia?
No.
Have you heard of him? So he's a Taoist, ancient Taoist. He's like in his 70s now. I think he's like 76 or something wild. But he's been teaching for 50 plus years of his life how to cultivate sexual energy and how to do so in a similar format to Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. He talks all about how sexual transmutation is really powerful, right? Convert your sexual energy into work, into purpose, right? Because like right now, I have a lot of testosterone. I'm pretty much horny every day. I wake up, I have morning wood, I'm ready to go. Do I start watching porn right away to start my day and just release? No. What I do is I realize I'm a potent man and I'm ready to fucking take the world. I will transmute that energy immediately with the right thoughts and the right actions and habits into my work. Okay, how do I immediately go into work? Or how do I immediately go into shaking my body or practicing Qigong or some energy healing practices? So that's one part of the spectrum, is like transmutation and shifting the sexual energy. Not saying I don't have sexual energy. Another piece of it is, okay, I'm horny right now. I'm feeling this temptation to pull up my phone, look up Pornhub and go into that. Or I can be logical about this. Okay, I'm horny right now. How about I set the phone down, put it in a different room? How about I just like grab some coconut oil and just work this energy a little bit? But my goal isn't to release. That's the key here. Now, this is something that would actually go against a lot of religious friends of mine and things along these lines, because they'd be like, okay, you're touching yourself. That's actually not a Christ-like thing to do. And I would actually say, why would God give us this sexual energy to say, don't touch it, right? Like, I think that's one of those things. It's like saying your dick doesn't exist. It doesn't make any sense. If you're a man, you're a man. And for women, that's a whole other subject, but work your sexual energy if you want to. This is what Montauk teaches in his book, Cultivating Masculine Sexual Energy. And he has many other books you can look into and YouTube channels, but he talks all about just like work your sexual energy. It's totally fine. Massage the testicles, slap the balls even a little bit, get some energy down there. You're grounded. You're now in your root. You're not in fear. You're not in this sacral stagnation. You're working this sexual energy. And then after you've had a little bit of sexual pleasure, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 20, and you're like, okay, I'm kind of at that 90% where I could release, but I know in my head, if I do that, I'm going to be shame and guilt. Then stop right there and just like breathe and go and do something else immediately, right? Pull your pants up, whatever, do something else immediately. That's when the sexual transmutation may happen. So this is an interesting thing, because I think guys, when I bring this up to them, are like, what, dude? So I can touch myself? I can work this sexual energy? I'm like, of course you can. And you can massage your body if you want. You can put coconut oil all over your body. Like that's that feminine energy, and it's healing energy you can eventually access. It's like if you're working the sexual energy enough, you can tap into some really healing frequencies. That's that whole body orgasm energy, which you can tap into over time with practice, just like a meditation. It's a practice, right? So I strongly believe like the more you work it, the more you can create that basically breathing up the spine and orgasming without ejaculation. You might have heard about that and practice that yourself, but it's a lot of stuff we get into with intricacies, but that's like the surface level, like how to work through some of the pornography right there.
All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps to spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.